This is the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join in the conversation, call 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Peter Blute.
All right, good morning, folks, and welcome to this Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. AM 830, that's Radio Central from the center of your dial, from the center of New England, and the center of information. AM 830 WCRN. Obviously, I am not Peter Blute. This is Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, and we are looking forward to Peter probably coming back next Sunday, get back to normal with Peter behind the microphone again, starting next Sunday. But for today, unfortunately, you're stuck with me. Of course, we'll be joined by Jerry Doherty at 9:30 as he does join the Peter Blute Show every Sunday at 9:30. And we learn a little bit about what he has coming up with the Boston Independence Group, as well as Jerry's unique take on the political landscape. And of course, back at HQ, we have Russ flying the board. So he'll get you set up and into the studio for two-way tech and conversation. Good morning, Russ. You look marvelous.
Good morning, Joe. You look marvelous yourself.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You can join the conversation for the next 3 hours. Now, that's odd to say because I'm always saying for the next hour, because you can listen to the Joe Mangiacotti Show weekdays at 1 o'clock here on AM 830 WCRN. But this morning, as I sit in for Peter Blute, it's 3 full hours from now until noon, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. The text line is also running, folks, so don't forget that. You can always text in at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Text like you do any other number. It appears on the screen here in real time, and we try to incorporate it into the conversation. Don't forget also that you can always listen to the station on the TuneIn app. That's right. We, like thousands of other radio stations, stream live to the TuneIn app 24/7. So if you don't have that app, it really takes seconds to download it on your device. Hit it, WCRN. You're going to see our cool logo. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Then we're very easy to find. And we know that you're there listening as well. And you can listen to all of our shows anytime on a replay. Just go to WCRNradio.com, and under the host or the time, you will see a little link that says replay link. And if you hit that, it populates a page with the very latest show right at the top. You can just play it right off there, or you can download it into an MP3 file and play it back at your leisure on another device that you don't need internet for. Now, I do my show, so this is Peter's show, but my show, I do stream live, both audio and video, so you can go to the WCRN Facebook page or YouTube channel, but also my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. So you can go to the show Facebook page, you can go to my X account, you can go to LinkedIn profile, and Rumble. We do have a Joe Mangiacotti Show, but I don't have a Peter Blute one, so we're going to use my platform and my link. But you can join us in the virtual studio here anytime you'd like at multiple places. But go to the Facebook page for either me or WCRN. Hey, and if you're at the WCRN Facebook page, AM 830 WCRN, do me a favor, hit the like and follow button there as we keep increasing the content to our social media platforms. My show's always turned into a podcast later, so you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast, by the way. And it will just let you know that it is up there, and lay it right up. So today, folks, I'm sure you realize it or have heard, a year ago today, this happens this very day, the 13th of July, is the 1-year anniversary, a very somber anniversary, of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, then candidate Trump. It happened 1 year ago, July 13th, 2024, and we came within inches of a tragedy at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And let's walk through some of that day, because the failures that let it happen and what we know about the shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks. And picture this. And I know that majority of those listening right now, if not all, but I was a much more of the majority listening right now, remember this because we had it on. So did Trump's family, his wife, and children. A sunny afternoon at the Butler Farm Showgrounds. Former President Donald J. Trump, now candidate Trump, is rallying a crowd when shots ring out. 8 shots. A bullet grazes Trump's ear. Heroic Secret Service agents rush him off the stage. But not before tragedy strikes. Corey Comparatori, a volunteer firefighter, husband, and father, is killed. 2 others, David Ditch and James Copenhaver, are wounded. The shooter, a 20-year-old named Thomas Matthew Crooks. He's then neutralized by Secret Service sniper. But the damage is done. The bullet connected. It shot President Trump, yes, in the head, but in the ear specifically. And how did this happen? Multiple reports, including from the Secret Service and a bipartisan task force, House task force, I should say, paint a picture of stunning failures. The Secret Service didn't secure a nearby AGR complex rooftop, giving Crooks a clear line of sight to Trump. Local law enforcement spotted him acting suspiciously with a rangefinder at 3 p.m. Those that may not know that, a rangefinder is a small telescope-looking type thing that, well, kind of does what the name implies. It helps snipers, shooters, to line up their shots and determine the range. This helps you calculate your range versus your, say, wind direction and wind speed. 3 hours before the attack, he is seen with this, which somebody in a fairgrounds like this, when you have a high target or high value target there, is enough to cause a major amount of concern. A major amount of concern. Because people, you and I, don't typically walk around with a rangefinder on our person, do we? But fragmented communication meant key agents weren't told of this. There was no or unified command post. And 4 law enforcement agencies were on different radio frequencies. And no one operator coordinating those 4 different frequencies, by the way. And the Secret Service's drone operator, who had just about 3 months of experience, was calling tech support hotline during the event. Think about that. Let the ramifications of that sink in. Requests for extra drones, flight restrictions, and even protective glassware were all denied. Is that by design or incompetence? And the friction with local law enforcement was palpable. Butler Township Police and Pennsylvania State Police have testified they weren't properly briefed by the Secret Service, leaving gaps in coverage. Local snipers inside the AGR complex had a narrow view, missing Crooks climbing the roof. One local officer even fired at Crooks before the Secret Services got their kill shot, highlighting the chaos there. And we know that the people attending it actually saw it and were calling for attention. And who was Thomas Matthew Crooks? A Bethel Park, Pennsylvania native. He graduated high school in 2022, works as a dietary aide, a registered Republican. He donated $15 to a progressive group in 2021. No clear motive emerged. His phone and home revealed no ideological kind of manifesto of any type, and the FBI found bomb-making materials in his car. Suggestion, premeditation. But they believe he acted alone. Conspiracy theories swirl, of course, from Iranian plots to domestic political motives. No evidence or the links anywhere else has been found. Still, the lack of a clear why fuels a lot of speculation, does it not? The Secret Service has since suspended 6 agents with punishments from 10 to 42 days and implemented 21 of 46 recommended reforms, like better drones and clearer command lines. But folks, this was a preventable failure. And a year later, we honor Corey Carpenter and demand accountability, as does his wife, who now apparently is finally being communicated to. And she had been left for the remainder of the Biden administration hanging out there without communication and without information. So what say you? 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. So if you'd like to join the conversation here on the Peter Blute Show on this Sunday morning, feel free to do so. Also, our text line at 617-297-8388 is also up and running, so you can text in that way, and it appears on the screen here in real time. But a year later, from Butler, Pennsylvania, in that big, beautiful chart, folks, Trump makes reference to it now, and apparently it wasn't done in order. Usually he doesn't call for that till later in his rally, but he called for it a little earlier, and when he turned his head, as you all saw, just millimeters difference between the bullet traveling through his ear or possibly penetrating his scalp. And that would have been on live national TV. But folks, we're going to take our first break here on the Peter Blute Show on segment 1, Down and Out There. So 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. Don't forget, Jerry Doherty will join us at 9:30 after the second segment. But lines are open and available. We'll add a few more things to talk about, but it is also your Sunday morning, so feel free to call in with what you'd like to talk about. Joe Mangiacotti for Peter Blute.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing. Fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing makes sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. You'll hear it all right here. Radio Central.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Building AI Boston is a tech talk for everyone. Listen in to find out why you belong in the conversations shaping our future every Thursday morning, 10:30 Eastern Time, on Radio Central AM 830 WCRN.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Sunday. Oh, wait a minute. All right, I got to get Peter's intros and themes down a little bit better here. Obviously not Peter Blute, Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, and we look forward to welcome Peter back behind the microphone next Sunday morning. That's the plan anyway, so we can look forward to that. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. And don't forget our text line, 617-297-8388. Let's go to the phones. Mark has been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you? Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know what's good about it. The country's coming apart at the seams, especially our federal government. They're a joke. They're a dysfunction junction. I hope they don't destroy the country in the process of all these political machinations that they're going through right now. I.e., hello, Pam Bondi. Oh, boy, you did a good job of brooming that case, and your boss backed you up. You know? So anyways, what I want to talk about really, and maybe you know the answer to this question, maybe you don't. That's cool. But maybe one of your callers does. 100 years ago, if you were an American citizen, was it legal for you to possess a dual citizenship? We'll say in 1925. I don't know the answer to that question. Do you?
I don't know the definitive. No, I assume it was. I don't know if that was something that came in later. That's a great question. Let's see if we can figure that out this morning. I'm sure there is a caller that does know that.
Yeah, no, I'm going somewhere with this.
Uh-huh.
All right. Ghislaine Maxwell, who's, as far as I know, is a citizen of Britain. She was born, raised, and educated in Britain. Her father was also British, billionaire, media tycoon in the UK, and I guess in Western Europe as well, when $1 billion was worth $1 billion. And Jeffrey Epstein. Of those three that I just mentioned, do they have dual citizenship? Did one or all of them have dual citizenship?
I don't know. We can look it up, though. That's a good
question.
The
point I'm trying to get to with this, all right, okay, is that if you have dual citizenship, where does your allegiance lie? To United States or country B? All right, and I'll just leave it at that. And the people with, a little bit of an analytical brain and can look at things from outside the box, you can tie it all together. Have a good one, my man.
Thank you, Mark. Always appreciate the call. Always a good call because Mark usually brings up a good point, as he just did. And yes, now that you actually raised that is a great question because we have all of these rumors and things that make us wonder what the hell is going on with Epstein. Because if we look back before the charges that brought him to New York and brought him to the cell where he extinguished his own life, apparently, there was a case earlier. And I know you heard something about it. If not, you know everything about it. But he got that sweetheart deal. And this was a nasty type case again. And somehow he was able to finagle, or him and his lawyers, where he would go sleep at the jail at night, but was allowed to go back to his very luxurious, palatial, maybe even, home in Florida, not far from Mar-a-Lago. And he was in for very nasty charges. And the DA there, or the ADA there, has been quoted as saying something to the effect of, this is above my pay grade, and that it has something to do with intelligence. So one is led to understand that something came down from somewhere high atop, that he was some kind of an asset or needed, and you can't be locking him away with total isolation. I would like to know more details on that. Which means people in our government, people with the ability to stop him from victimizing young ladies, knew what was going on. But there was a greater good in their opinion. I'm not arguing that there was, because I have no idea. So to tie that into Mark's question, posed point here, did he have dual citizenship, say, with Israel? Was he an asset or an operative for Mossad? Was he connected to our intelligence agencies, whether CIA or NSA? And how does one do that? And I know a lot of people don't know, because the media certainly doesn't share the fact that Donald Trump, then just Citizen Trump, when hearing of the charges or the shadiness that was going on there, kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. But the media doesn't like to report that or share that or remind you of that, because, boy, it really does make Trump look like a man that might have some principles and morals. And that he took some kind of action, just action that was within the scope of his authority, not being a president yet, but a private citizen. But he certainly had control over Mar-a-Lago. And he didn't want somebody engaged in that type of activity with those types of charges hanging over him in his club and sitting down to his tables for dinner or lunch. So we've got Giselle now, and this is the thing about this. Yes, Pam Bondi is backpedaling, and she made a big mistake. And by the way, I know that a few days ago there was all the rumors about Dan Bongino leaving and so forth, and I'm glad both he and Kash Patel have clarified that and said neither one of them are intending to leave, and that they will serve at the pleasure of the president for as long as he'll have them. Maybe they should do, and when I say they, maybe Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino should do a three-way type of presser. And Pam Bondi needs to, I guess, tighten it up, for lack of a better way of saying it. If you say something, make sure you mean exactly what you're saying, and then follow through with what you're saying, because she made reference to the files on her desk, and there was some kind of, and I saw that clip, and I took the inference I took from that was the files. And when I say black book, and I don't know if you guys, when you say black book, you like literally mean a little black book. I'm using in the kind of the generic term of those files that would indicate either, their clients, for lack of a better way of putting it, for Jeffrey Epstein, or the compromising material he had. Because nobody really understands where his money came from. You've got the connection to Victoria's Secret founder and all that, and Epstein having now or then having one of the guy's personal jets became Epstein's. And you got to wonder, but you can't have victims if there's nobody victimizing them. So how does that happen? And now the inference seems to be that all of the files or videos were of pornographic nature, of minors and so forth, and will never be shared. But let's go back to the flight logs on that. Some of that has been released, has it not? And that tells us who traveled, and some who traveled multiple times. But as far as the Pam Bondi situation on this, I think, she's walking that back. and she's trying to say now there is nothing, there was nothing there on that. And I'm just wondering, what was she thinking when she said that versus what they have? Now, here's something, because we're going to have to break in a minute here. Could it be possible that the talking that was happening about absolutely releasing this, going to expose it, I'm going to release that, and we're going to look at it. And could it have been that once Pam Bondi and maybe Patel got into those files and got a good look at those files, they realized there was so much more going on that they, of course, had no idea when they made the comments about releasing it. In that the connection, if you will, to intelligence agencies, ours and others, or combination, as well as other information, was just too connected to national security, was too much to actually put out there. And they realized, I can't release this. Because there's also the option that there is a treasure trove of information, connections, and assets that are now available to us. Hence, Pam Bondi walking a lot of this back, because they cannot expose everything connected to this. And now Bongino and Patel have been making it very clear that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide based on the fact that there was cameras on the way in and out. Nobody was coming in and out. And of course, you think about it, he was looking at a very long time for very nasty charges. And maybe he did take that way out. What say you on this? All right, folks, we're going to take a second break here of the first hour of the Sunday morning edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. We'll take our break. We'll come back on the other side. Jerry Doherty will join us, as he does join the Peter Blute Show every Sunday morning at 9:30. So stick with us, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. And our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 in 10, folks.
Headline news, weather, and local information central to your day on Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
We invite you to listen to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
And I also believe the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. I believe that the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. I believe Paul was right when he told Timothy.
That's Pastor Ray McMahon with the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast right here on this station.
Jesus is Our Shepherd airs every Sunday at noon right here on 830 WCRN. Are you ready for a change? Do you need a job that works around your schedule? How about driving your own kids to school and getting paid for it? AA Transportation is offering paid CDL training with regular permit classes that get you on the road. They have immediate openings for school bus and van drivers, as well as monitors across several districts. All you need is a good driving record with at least 5 years experience, a clean quarry, the ability to pass a pre-employment drug screening and DOT physical. If you already have a school bus or 7D certificate, join us now and earn up to $30 an hour with guaranteed minimum hours, health and dental benefits, plus a 401k. And for those experienced coach bus drivers out there, we have a position for you too. This is perfect for parents, retirees, or anyone who enjoys being behind the wheel. Call Lori at 774-888-8255 774-361-5042. That's 774-361-5042. Start your journey with AA Transportation.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour, the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. Obviously, I'm not Peter Blute. I'm Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute, and we're looking forward to Peter back behind the microphone next Sunday. If all goes well, that's the plan. Well, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And that is like any other text. It's a screen in the studio. You text that number, it appears in real time for me, and we try to work it into the conversation. And of course, Russ is back at HQ, and he's flying the board today. Now, I'm broadcasting from the Cameo studio, so the Cameo Cam is on. You can join us on streaming as well, either on our social media platforms at WCRN Radio's Facebook page or my Facebook page, Joe Mangi Show, Mangi, as well as Rumble. So multiple ways to listen, multiple ways to watch as well. And as promised, and as he does every Sunday at this time, Jerry Doherty from Making Money Last joins us on the Peter Blute Show. Good morning, Jerry Doherty.
Good morning, Joe Mangiacotti, and good morning, Russ.
You look marvelous.
Well, I wish that were true, Joe. So one can hold out a lot of hope for that. I wish that were true.
Hey, listen, this disembodied voice right now. But good morning. Good morning. How was your 4th of July, by the way?
My 4th of July was actually very good. I didn't do anything too exciting. Just spent some time with my daughters and all of that. So it was good. But Joe, I did want to tell you, I was kind of intrigued by Mark's call. And I did go onto the internet. So on this dual citizenship in the United States, I guess that there was a very famous Supreme Court case in 1967 that kind of brought us to today's current dual citizenship, that, you know, you can have citizenship at, with different countries and it's not frowned upon. Before that Supreme Court case in 1967, according to what it says that I'm reading here, it says, although it wasn't explicitly disallowed that you could not have dual citizenship, it was really frowned upon, that, you know, you were supposed to be a citizen of the United States and no other countries. But in 1967, it was opened up where the Supreme Court said that you actually have the right to become a citizen of other countries as well. So in answer to Mark's question, I had no idea. I just looked this up. But in answer to Mark's question, I think that's generally the flow of it, is that pre-1967, it was really frowned upon, but there wasn't anything legally, you know, that explicitly prohibited you from doing it. Post-1967, the Supreme Court kind of, you know, made a ruling in a famous case that said that you actually can become a dual citizen. So that's where we are.
That is interesting. I know there's a lot of people who are getting them now. In a matter of fact, and because of my mother's side of the family in Ireland, my sisters and I have decided that we will get our Irish passports or Irish citizenship as well, because you can do that with either parents, grandparents, if you can establish the connection and so forth. And I looked at it as a novelty, something that just allows you to travel to Ireland with greater ease and all that. But Ireland itself, Jerry, is actually running campaigns and commercials in the United States, encouraging people to get their Irish citizenship as well. And I think, you know, we got to go back all the way to Secretary Heckler, who did a lot to bring businesses to Ireland and for American companies to tap in. And I don't know if people realize, and I'm sure you do, that there's a great number of great American corporations who have offices, even headquarters and plants and so forth in Ireland, because it offers them a a great workforce, talent pool, right? Of course, the Irish wit and literature there. But interesting that we have a country, and I didn't really think about it till this topic came up this morning. We have a foreign country advertising on American television to get their citizenship in another country. That's kind of interesting. If you
what Ireland did too is Ireland had, among the, if not the lowest corporate tax rate. So you had a lot of, corporations going there. And this is, one of the things that Donald Trump talks about, leveling the playing field. Of course, if you have a low corporate tax rate and it's a significant amount lower, then you're going to locate your company there. And that's why a lot of these companies have their headquarters, they're domiciled in Ireland. And then on top of that, you do have, you're 100% correct, Joe. And this is coming from, Jerry Doherty. You do have a highly educated, workforce.
Yep.
A lot of, the number of college graduates in Ireland is particularly high. And you do have a, country that has a very good work ethic, all of that stuff. So you have a labor pool that for most corporations would be an attractive labor pool to draw from. But it's more, I think, that corporate tax rate that was driving a lot of companies to Ireland over the past couple of decades.
Yeah. And, it's just, I got to go back only because my association with the Heckler family and so forth, and Margaret Heckler, who was our congressperson for in the 60s and 70s, and then by supporting a particular tax piece of legislation for Ronald Reagan. I almost said Donald Trump. For Ronald Reagan, she lost that seat to Barney Frank. And many people listening right now, I'm sure, that they remember that because they're of the age that they would have been politically active.
Right.
And she said to Ronald Reagan at a function, hey, I did you a good favor and now I need a job. And they actually offered her Treasury at one point. And
wow.
She turned that down, that she wasn't sure of that, but she ended up with the second largest, other than the federal budget, the federal government budget. Health and Human Services was the next biggest budget. I mean, and their budget's bigger than many countries. And she did a lot of great things there. One of the things was bringing that, because not only that, but then later she became ambassador to Ireland. And as ambassador to Ireland, she really brought business in American business there and encouraged all that. And I think that what we see there, but of course the tax rate, Jerry, has a lot to do with that. And that's why Donald Trump dropped it in his first term, continues to want to drop it, and then even have more incentives for these corporations if they headquarter here in the United States. And we've seen trillions of dollars come back, Jerry, right? And car companies bringing back their factories. They stopped the one, Ford stopped the factory being built in Mexico to bring it back to the United States. So a couple pretty, very clever moves. And of course, now that 3XB, right, the big, beautiful bill has passed, that is loaded with all kinds of incentives.
Loaded with all kinds of incentives for corporations and also for regular middle-class Americans. It kind of blows my mind sometimes, Joe, when I see people like this Mandami in New York City, and I see young people jumping on the Mandami bandwagon, for socialism. And they don't understand that, what Donald Trump has done for the average working person. Right now, we have wages in the United States that are outpacing inflation. When you look back on it, Joe, I brought this up previously, when Peter was there on Peter's show. When you look back at it, real wage growth, inflation-adjusted wage growth in the United States declined under every single year of Barack Obama's 8-year presidency. Every single year, real wages declined under Barack Obama. Every single year under Joe Biden, real wages declined in the United States of America. That's just a fact. Every single year under Donald Trump's first presidency, real wages increased in the United States of America. It's just a fact. And now when you look at it, under Donald Trump's second term, we have wages that are increasing at a faster pace than inflation is increasing right now, which means that real wages are going up again under Donald Trump as a formula that he is able to replicate. And then on top of that, under the big, beautiful bill that you were leading into, under the big, beautiful bill, we have the Trump tax cuts from 2017, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that is now extended, right? That's, now the law of the land, which gives great tax relief to America's middle class. In that package, we have no tax on tips, we have no tax on overtime, and we have that special Social Security tax deduction that they put in. But when you look at the no tips on tax and the no tips on overtime, that's something that's directly going to affect America's middle and lower income families. It's not the super wealthy people, Bill Gates and people like Bill Ackman, they are not out there. Their income is not dependent upon tips. It's just, it doesn't work that way. Wouldn't that be interesting? Right. This is for very obviously the average person. Yet you have a whole population of young people, kind of these Gen Xers or Gen Zers or whatever the heck they are. I forget all the generations now.
I know, I start to confuse X and Z.
I start to confuse them all together too, but we have a lot of young people who are supporting people like Mandami. They simply don't understand that Donald Trump has done an enormous amount to help the average working person out there.
And let's
it's just the reality.
Because you've got a combination of the media that they're exposed to don't talk about it. They will do nothing, right? Nothing that would make Donald Trump look good or be positive in any way. So they're not exposed to those facts. And let's not forget that the very small percentage of people actually put this guy in the Democratic seat, which is often an automatic in the general. But let's see how that plays out. The second thing is socialism to them sounds great. On paper, everything sounds good on paper, but they're not being taught that every country that has tried socialism has ended up in many times in the murder and of many of its own citizens and what life really is like. I mean, when they hear about these grocery stores, so we got to pause on this with Jerry. We're against the clock for the hard break. So let us do that, folks. We're going to take a quick break, 2 and 10 on that. We'll come back on the other side and we'll finish that segment and bring us to 10 o'clock with Jerry Doherty on the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Obviously not Peter Blute, Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter, back in 2 and 10.
Information central to your day from Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Fuller Park is the place to play. Best ballpark in AAA.
And the Woo Sox come back. They walk it off.
With a bumper crop of red-hot Red Sox prospects on the way, don't miss a moment. Get your tickets today.
In the air to deep left center field. Back into the gap. This ball is gone.
Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to see the Woo Sox play in April and May.
Did you know your business loses $1,685 per employee each year? Poor health doesn't just mean sick days. It drains energy, lowers productivity, and impacts your bottom line. I'm Kelly Hamilton, certified holistic nutritionist, ICU nurse, and owner of A Better Path to Wellness. I help businesses create healthier workplaces so employees thrive and companies save money. Let's optimize the wellness and productivity of your team. Call 774-253-4934 today.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
We invite you to listen each weekend to the Voice of Truth broadcast with Pastor L.R. Shelton.
My friend, that is declaring yourself before God. You'll keep repeating over and over again what you are, what God has showed you.
That's the Voice of Truth broadcast each weekend on this station.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth final segment of hour one of the Peter Blute Show here on this Sunday morning. Russ, are you choosing those or are those pre-programmed in that bumper music?
Well, what I did, Joe, was as a backup, and I've told Peter in the past about it, and he likes it, that I have a number of instrumentals that in case we need to use them, just in case of an emergency, or in this case, use them for bump. We have, a little bit of variety, and I just love doing this. I love, trying to blend in the bump music. And of course, watching you on screen, Joe, I love watching your facial expressions, and you light up sometimes on certain songs that come up. And I'm sure Jerry will agree.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Some of the ones that I haven't heard in a long time and recognize. All right, good work, Russ. Thank you very much.
Russ, I have a quick question for Russ. Russ, is that the theme song to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Yes, it is.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Hugo Montenegro.
Yeah.
Hugo Montenegro.
Brings you kind of back to little kid, right? Watching.
It absolutely does. Yeah. It absolutely does. Those old Clint Eastwood movies.
Absolutely. All right, folks, let's do the setup. This is the Peter Blute Show. Obviously, I'm not Peter. I'm Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter, and we're looking forward to having him back behind the microphone next Sunday. So that will be fun. Don't forget, you can join the conversation for the remainder of the couple hours that we have here till noon at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Jerry Doherty, as he does join Peter every week at this time. And going into the break, in Madami, he got the Democratic seat there, or, the candidate for the general. But as I was making the point that I don't think that these younger generations, and to your point, Jerry, whether they're the Zs or X or millennials, were taught or haven't really been taught the history of communism. And on paper, when they hear this, we're going to freeze the rent and I'm going to do all these things, and then these grocery stores, what makes the ability for us to go into a Whole Foods, a D'Angelo's, Stop and Shop, whatever it is, whatever your grocery store of choice is capitalism, is free market, is these in supermarkets work on a razor thin margin, folks. They operate on the premise of volume, and they will have leading items, right? So they will basically sell something at cost, or even lose a couple pennies to get you into the store and get more stuff sold. And the idea that a city-run grocery store, a government-run grocery store, is going to look anything like a Stop and Shop or a Big Y, they're going to be sadly surprised, Jerry, when they find this out, because it can't happen. And I don't know how this guy thinks he can do this, because when you go to this kind of communist way, isn't all the incentive gone, right? If it's all price fixed and things of that, and everybody gets the same amount of money no matter how well you perform, what do you think is going to happen?
Right. No, listen, Joe, I agree with you, and I think the vast majority of the audience agrees with you as well. When you remove the incentive, that's where all the problems start. And when you have systems like communist systems, socialism, and so on, you remove the incentives to work just as hard as you want to work. And it's that hard work that always benefits all of mankind. I've talked about this in my own program. It's very Adam Smith-ish, in that if you want to become the wealthiest person in the world, all you need to do is either figure out the cure for cancer or figure out the cure for hair regrowth, right?
Yeah.
One of those two things.
Yeah,
And
somebody already did the Viagra, right? So
right, but I once heard, right,
male
or
pattern baldness.
Viagra. I should throw Viagra onto that list as well. But it's the reality is that, you know, generally speaking, there are some aberrant situations, but generally speaking, if you drive up and down any beautiful street in any town and you see people living in beautiful houses, the amount of money that they're making is in direct proportion to the amount of benefit that they're bringing to society. And the more benefit that you bring to society, the more affluent you will become, if that's what your goal is. You know, I've always believed in success, you know, not being defined in terms of monetary, you know, aspects. I think it was Napoleon Hill who defined, you know, success the best when he said that success is the progressive realization of any worthy ideal or goal. You know, it's very hard to call the school teacher in an inner city school who's working for less than they could be making elsewhere, but who is affecting the lives of many children. It's very hard to not call them a success. It's very hard, you know, to not call somebody a success who's out there really affecting the lives of other people in a very positive way, even though they might not make a lot of money. So it really is that kind of progressive realization. But when you do look at this, the amount of financial success that you will have in life is in direct proportion to the amount of benefit that you bring to society. I do believe that. And that is the definition of capitalism in a nutshell.
Absolutely. You know, and I think back about, you know, my dad and growing up, and he drilled a couple of things into my sisters and I growing up. And that was, you can be whatever you want to be, you know, and he would support us, whatever we chose to do. But he used to tell me all the time, do whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy, and the money will take care of itself. And I think what he was trying to say is that, you know, don't go after something because it's a high paying job, you can make a lot of money in it. Do what you want to do, and if you do it the best you can do it, the money's going to take care of itself. And that is actually proven to be true in my case.
Joe, I think that there is a lot of truth in that, and I think that parents, you know, there's that old adage that we hear, you know, that if you do what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah,
and I think that's really true.
Yeah,
you know, if you do what you have a passion
that,
for.
really.
But I want people to be careful about that as well. I've spoken to my own kids about this. I want people to be careful about that as well, because you know what will happen is that you'll go out there, and if you develop a skill, and if you start to earn an income from that skill, that will bring you happiness. So I hope I'm, you know, I know, you know, we only have a few minutes together, but I hope that people understand that when somebody is 10 years old, if you said to the average little boy who's 10 years old, what do you want to be when you want to grow up? They'll tell you something fantastic. You know, I want to be a superhero. I want to be a policeman. I want to be this,
astronaut, fireman,
all of that stuff like that. Nobody says, I want to grow up to be, you know, an engineer, or nobody goes up and says, I want to be an architect, you know, designing buildings. But Joe, when they develop that skill and they start to earn an income from that skill, and because of that income, they're able to buy a house, and they're able to form families, and they're able to provide for their children and, you know, spouses for each other and all of that, that will bring them happiness. And then they will develop a passion for whatever that skill is that they've developed. That I never thought when I was 10 years old that I would be doing retirement planning for people. I never said, gee, what I'd like to be at 10, I want to do retirement planning for people. But it's something that I got into that I liked, and then I started to develop an income from it. And I started to provide a lifestyle. And now I have a fantastic passion for it. That's actually the way I believe it works in life.
Yeah.
Rather than just saying to your children, pursue your dreams and go out to a very expensive college and get a degree in art history. And good luck with that. You know, it's much better to have people learn a skill that they can develop an income from, and then develop a passion for it from there.
Hey, Jerry, I had opened up the show this morning with, of course, today being the 1-year anniversary of Butler, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I was curious as to your feelings and take on this, as to where we are as far as questions being answered, the failures of the Secret Service that day. Of course, a lot of times the poor firefighter who was a father protecting his wife and daughter and ended up dying from one of the stray bullets, 8 shots that morning. Do you think that we've gotten enough answers surrounding that incident, and considering there was a second attempt with the other one there in Florida shortly after that? Where are your feelings on that?
Well, where my feelings are on that is that I think the way that I have been thinking about it, Joe, all morning long, is that I cannot believe what a difference 12 months. We're talking about 1 year. This is 12 short months, 365 days. That is it from that event having happened. So I look at it and I think to myself, boy, anybody who thinks that they can't kind of turn their life around, look at what's happened in the past 12 months with Donald Trump. 1 year ago, you said this during your first segment, 1 year ago, Joe, Donald Trump was a former president and he was a presidential candidate who was nearly assassinated on the stage. We fast forward 1 year, the entire world has been transformed by Donald Trump. And I think that was kind of one of the seminal moments of this transformation of the world. When you look at the world that we are in today, it is 180 degrees today. It's the complete antithesis of what it was 1 year ago. It's amazing how quickly the world has changed. I wanted to touch base. I know we're very tight on time, but I wanted to touch base, Joe, on just a couple of quick numbers that are a little bit off the topic of the Trump assassination, but how different the world is. What is not reported enough in the news, but was reported on Friday, is that, the United States Treasury, Scott Bessent, he came out. Did you know that in the month of June, the United States ran a surplus? The United States during the month of June ran a $27 billion surplus. I want to point out to people that the United States government took in $27 billion more than what they spent during the month of June. That is a remarkable number. It's
incredible. I did not know. I didn't see that. That's incredible.
Okay, Joe, it's incredible. Let me give you 2 more quick numbers.
Jerry, can you hold through the break?
I'll hold through the break because I do want to talk about this quickly.
I'd love to touch on that. That's incredible news. And what does that tell us, folks? Where does that lead us? But we have to take a break here, right? Hour 1 down. We got 2 hours to go. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 for the remainder of the 2 hours on this Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Obviously not Peter Blute, Joe Mangiacotti sitting in with Jerry Doherty. We'll be back in 2 in 10, folks.
This is Radio Central, 830 WCRN, Worcester.
Fox News, I'm Paul Stevens. It's been 1 year since an assassination attempt on then-candidate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with 1 shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation. It was really bad.
The president on Fox's My View with Laura Trump. More rain, meantime, could hit flood-ravaged parts of central Texas. Crews there still searching and rescuing for any survivors or those killed in last week's deadly floods.
This caused a flash flood emergency, which is pretty rare, over by the Colorado Bend State Park in Bend, Texas. We know that there have been some evacuation notices there. At least one campground has been evacuated, according to officials, as they monitor a rising creek there.
Fox Weather's Katie Byrne in Kerrville, Texas. America's listening to Fox News.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
This is the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join in the conversation, call 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Peter Blute.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second hour of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Obviously not Peter Blute, Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute here on AM 830 WCRN, reminding you can join the conversation for the remainder of the 2 hours at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And we got some text coming in. So a major grocery chain, John moved all his business out of New York City. Okay, thank you. So 235 text. The owner of WABC AM 770 major grocery chain in New York City will move all of his business out of New York City if Zohan, the communist, wins. And that's interesting. And I think that a lot of businesses are very concerned that if he gets in there. Also joining us is Jerry Doherty, as he does this time every Sunday with the Peter Blute Show. So he's online with us. Also, let me bring in the conversation. George Landreth has jumped in, president of Frontiers of Freedom Institute out of D.C., and my boss at the Frontiers of Freedom, as I'm a senior fellow there. Hey, George, good morning, sir. You look great.
Good morning. It's good to see you.
And you're recently back from some 4th of July, visiting the family and so forth. So welcome back. Jerry Doherty's on. We were let's pick up where you're going, because and George, I don't know if you caught this, but Jerry was bringing up Bassett released some information. We had a surplus in June. Jerry, Jerry, could you recap what you were saying, because this is fascinating to me, and I missed it in the news.
Well, what we were talking about is this. I started this in the context of Donald Trump's assassination attempt being 1 year ago today. So 1 year ago today, we had Donald Trump as a former president. We had Donald Trump as a candidate for president. We had runaway spending at the federal level. We had, things a mess across the whole world because of Joe Biden's, misguided foreign policy misadventures that he had tried to do throughout the world. So things are really kind of a mess. And I was saying that what is really amazing about this assassination attempt, in my opinion, is that how quickly everything has changed in just a 12-month period of time. And remember, that assassination attempt from 1 year ago, Donald Trump was not elected president until November, which was roughly 4 or 5 months after that. Then he really didn't take office until January, right? A few months after that. So it's really only been 6 months at the most under Donald Trump's presidency. And right now, not only do we have so many things that are so different in the world, the entire world has changed. But I was telling Joe on some of these numbers, it was announced at the end of last week that the United States for the month of June ran a $27 billion surplus for the month of June. We took in $27 billion more than the United States spent during the month of June. And that is mostly due, these numbers obviously come from the US Treasury, from Scott Bessent. That's mostly due to tariff revenue. So when you look at it from October, the United States runs on a fiscal year, as you guys well know, that runs from October 1st to September 30th every year. That's our fiscal year. So we're coming up in just a couple of months at the end of the 2025 fiscal year. We'll be entering fiscal year 2026 very shortly. So customs revenue, which is driven by that tariff revenue, in 1 year has never been more than, it's never crossed $100 billion. So far, we have $113 billion in customs revenue that's come in under Donald Trump. And Scott Besson, I think this is a very telling number. He forecasts that for the calendar year of 2025, January 1st, to December 31st, for that calendar year, he's forecasting $300 billion in tariff revenue. We didn't even put these tariffs in, remember, they weren't announced until April 2nd, right? When we had the big, tariff announcement that shook up the stock market. But they're talking about this first calendar year alone, which really isn't even a full calendar year, but the first calendar year under Trump, $300 billion in tariff revenue. So this stuff is really amazing. When you think about a $37 trillion national debt, when you start to talk about $27 billion a month coming out of the blocks, this really is
real money.
That's real money. This is going to add up to trillions and trillions of dollars. Then on top of that, and I don't want to drone on and on about this, but on top of that, we have two other important things going on. We have number one, the tariff revenue. That is huge. Number two, we have this waste, fraud, and abuse, all the Elon Musk stuff. We still have to put a lot of those in. And the big, beautiful bill, Joe, that you were mentioning, that does address a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse. There are more cuts in the big, beautiful bill than in any other bill previously. And then the third thing are these lower tax rates that we have now just extended, and also lower corporate tax rates that are going to always lead to more revenue. With lower tax rates, people spend more money. We live in a consumer-driven economy. It creates more jobs. It creates more businesses, which in turn creates more taxation. It's classic Laffer curve stuff. They have this down to, the tax rates, down to an area that it will lead to greater revenue. So between the tariffs giving us greater revenue and then cleaning up this waste, fraud, and abuse that is just pervasive throughout the entire government, the entire federal government, and then last, getting the benefit from lower tax rates via more taxpayers and more companies paying revenue, this thing is going to be a home run. This cannot be anything but a home run.
Yeah. And, I mentioned it on my show from time to time, is who are these economists that consistently get this thing wrong, right? They've been, and I understand there's a certain amount, the media trying to scare us and tell us that the recession is coming and the tariffs are going to result in this really, inflation has dropped. What? I don't even know what the latest number is, Jerry. You probably.
And Joe, so inflation right now is running a little bit above the Federal Reserve's target. Federal Reserve's target is 2%. Inflation is running at about 2.3, depending upon which inflation read you get. Core is a little. It's like right. Yeah. Inflation is the lowest it's been in a long time. Joe, to your point though about these other economists, when are two things going to happen? One of the other economists going to admit that they were wrong, number one, because Donald Trump has really turned a lot of this conventional economic thinking on its head.
Yeah.
And then number two, when are they going to admit that the president was right? Not only I am wrong, but number two, he was right. When is that going to happen?
Oh, that is such a hard thing for them to do. Because if they start admitting that Donald Trump was right on something, then the whole narrative of him being, Hitler and fascist and so bad just crumbles away. And I think this links us back to earlier when we're talking about, Mamdani in New York.
It totally does. Yeah.
By people who, quite honestly, the newest version, I think, of that man in the street, back in the day, right, when Riley was on, it was Jesse Waters running around. Now you got this Johnny does it, and when he just randomly goes to people in New York City, and I find it so interesting, embarrassing as hell, because people in other countries can see how ignorant the typical person on the street is when he asks them simple questions, and they vote. They're voting for the Kamala Harrises and the Mandamis, and they have no idea what that means. They don't understand the consequences of such votes. So I guess the question is, and to George Landreth from Frontiers of Freedom joining us in the virtual studio as well, and Jerry Doherty, of course, from Making Money Last, does Mandami have a very serious chance, and will he become the next mayor? Or we got some billionaires, and as the texture said, businesses who will move out, will shut down their operations because they don't want to live in a city where the government is starting to run grocery stores and going towards communism. And we've got billionaires who have set up funds for anybody they think can defeat him. Will things happen that will either settle it between Adams and Cuomo, right? Because those two are going to, they're going to split the vote and put this guy right in. And you got Curtis out there in the Republican Party. Will this guy be the next mayor? George, your take?
Well, I think polling suggests that's true today, that if the election were today, he would be the next mayor. I am hopeful that the reality is today is not the election day, and there'll be plenty of time to both educate the public and change some of the groundwork that's going on now. I think you've hit the nail on the head when you describe what a train wreck he would be for New York. And so I'm hoping that the people who live in New York don't hate New York and want to destroy it, because a vote for him is a vote to destroy New York, because that's what communism does. And I know they say, oh, he's just a socialist. It's like, no. First of all, the difference between communism and socialism is something that didn't used to exist. An example, Karl Marx, his followers, people like, you go back in time to Lenin and Vladimir Lenin and others, the Hitler and other fascists were socialists, meaning that they believed in Marxism. And if you're a Marxist, you're a communist. And I think it's very funny that the media and academia wants to pretend that on the extreme right there's fascism, on the extreme left there's communism. That's simply a lie. Because if you take conservatism to its extreme, you probably get anarchy, because we believe in less government, smaller government, and so forth. If you take that to the extreme, you end up with no government, and you have just anarchy in the streets.
All right, George, hold on a second, because we're against the clock here, but you can finish on the other side. Jerry Doherty, did you want to? You got any of those things coming up? Anything? College.
I have two of my retirement planning classes, Joe, coming up. One is at Worcester State University, and one is at Framingham State. They're both in August. You can go to my website, which is bostonindependencegroup.com, bostonindependencegroup.com. Click on the events tab, and you can see all of our upcoming dates for the fall as well.
Okay. Well, we're going to have
Thank
to,
you.
Jerry, did you want to stay, or did you?
Joe, I think I'm going to run. I'll leave you with Joe, but thank you very much.
More live and local radio is
Jerry Doherty. Back
tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
Headline news, weather, and local information central to your day on Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
The best Italian cuisine served by some of the nicest folks you'll ever meet is at Ziti's Italian Trattoria. It's fine Italian cooking at the Speedway Shopping Center, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro. It's like sitting down with your family for an authentic home-cooked Italian meal. From intimate dinners to catering for events of all sizes. From pizzas and calzones to classic Italian dinners. Every meal at Ziti's is one you'll remember. Head on down to Ziti's, 290 Turnpike Road in Westboro.
Every person is entitled to 30 fundamental human rights, and you only need to do one thing to enjoy all of them. Know them. Get your free human rights booklet today. Go to humanrights.com.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to hour 2 of the Peter Blute Show here on this Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show. Obviously not Peter, Joe sitting in for Peter Blute, and George Landreth, president of Frontiers of Freedom, also joining us in the virtual studio, reminding you folks that you can also join us on the stream, and you can do that on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, Facebook, X, LinkedIn profile, Twitch TV, and we do stream live to Rumble, as well as WCRN's Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Thank you to Jerry Doherty for joining us for a little while there, bringing in, George, that news about I did not catch the $27 billion surplus. Imagine if we repeated that every month. That is nuts. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Again.
Good to be here with you, Joe.
All right.
Right. It is crazy if you look at the last 20 years, this hasn't happened. And of course, some of the surplus was because of the tariffs, and some of it was because of the spending cuts. And I think the good news is there'll be more spending cuts because, you know, the Doge bill, the Big Beautiful Bill, some people were not excited about it because they didn't think it had enough cuts in it. And I would argue it was a good first step. It was a step in the right direction. I agree that it didn't have all the cuts that we need, but the way politics works is you got to get what you can today, and then you keep trying tomorrow and the day after. And so I'm hoping that they will continue to try to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, because they didn't get rid of all of it. They just got rid of a fair amount of it.
Yeah, more than we have in any recent times. Yeah. Reminding folks you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Let's jump to the phones real quick because Ken's been waiting a while here patiently. Ken, thanks for holding on. Welcome to the Peter Blute Show. George Landreth is joining us. What say you?
Good morning, Joe and George. I had a different topic, but the one that you just spoken at the top of the hour, it piqued my interest, and I want to continue on that. Namely, the New York City mayoral race. Yeah. So, on the topic, for years, 5-10 years, the further left you are, the more you love ranked choice voting, right? Because they think ranked choice voting, why, our extremists are going to have an easier time winning. And that's what we've been hearing from the media the whole time. Oh, Mamdani, the primary was perfect for him, the ranked choice voting. But it turned out he would have won. And I make the case, I haven't heard anybody else state this, so I want to hear what you and Bush think. I think it works against Mamdani in November. Because I'm almost positive ranked choice voting applies at the general election. Because if it is primary, I think it's going to be general. I don't think Mamdani can get to 50%. And yet, if there wasn't ranked choice voting, I think he'd be almost a lock, particularly if Cuomo were still actively running.
I'm not a fan of... I'm sorry, go ahead.
So my point is going to get to the point where the voters are like, no, not Mamdani. They're going to be Republicans. I got to vote for the Republicans. Oh, I'll vote for Adam second or Cuomo third, and then dead last is Mamdani. So there are going to be at least half of the voters who have Mamdani at the bottom of the list, which means he loses. Period.
All right, I see what you're saying. Interesting, right? Because of the and I'm not a fan of this rank choice voting thing.
Oh, I don't like it either.
But true, because if he is the last choice, he will get them. But it will be so. How does that work? If you don't hit 50%, then they redo the calculation by moving out the person on the bottom. Is that basically how that is?
Let me assume that this is almost identical to Maine. Remember, the states that this applies to are Maine, California, Alaska, I believe Washington. There may be others, but I know of those first three that I mentioned. Like in Maine, how it works is, let's say there are 4 candidates. Right now, that appears to be the case, so that'll be on the ballot. So 2 Republicans, 1 Republican, 2 independents, and Mamdani, the Democrat. So what they do is like, okay, here's the first vote count. Nobody got the 50. All right, number 4 drops off. Now what does that give us for a result? And if somebody goes over 50, that ends it. Oh, we still don't have a 50% with 3, so number 3 gets knocked off. So what's the final count for first and second based on adjusting for the rank choice?
So I see. And George, are you following this? Because I think Ken's saying that because if Mamdani's the third or last choice on what's in front of people, and if they're going to vote for Mamdani, they're not probably going to vote for Curtis anyway. But that could knock him out in the rank choice voting process. Interesting. George, your take?
Well, I'm not an expert on rank. I don't like rank choice voting because I think it's purposefully complicated, and I think it opens the door to voter fraud like crazy. But at the same time, if it happens to be that it helps to defeat him in this particular moment, that would be great. But in general, I think if you look at how ranked, has worked in the past, it tends to favor the more liberal and the more, it seems, I don't know, it troubles me in the sense that it's kind of like saying we're not going to keep score in the basketball game. We'll just post the score at the end of the game, as opposed to, having the score, it's just when you play games with how you do things, it's like, why are we doing this?
Well, also, gentlemen, and Ken included here, I want to bring it. So Fetterman, which has surprised me. I mean, he seems to lean a little more. At least he's a moderate Democrat. He's a little common sense in some stuff. And he came out. Now he hasn't endorsed Mamdani, and I don't know if there's been that many who have. But the point I'm trying to make with Fetterman is I saw him in a couple of interviews, and he says, well, I don't have a dog in this fight. It doesn't matter to me. That's New York. I'm Pennsylvania. And I'm saying, well, actually, I think it does, because I think whoever gets elected to the largest city in the country has influence in the rest of the country. And if Mamdani does become the mayor, it does it not open the floodgate, right? It's the camel's nose under the tent type of thing. And I think it will affect the Democratic Party. And it says, this is who we are now. So even though, sure, and it doesn't affect you, George, you're in DC, doesn't affect Ken in New Hampshire, me in Massachusetts directly, but I think the fallout of that election would absolutely ripple through the country. And again, we're back to probably a lot of major companies leaving. What say you, Ken?
Oh, I say it's more than a company. And you're saying it doesn't affect all of us? I disagree.
No, I said Fetterman saying that, not me. I think it does.
Okay. I got you. And Fetterman, by the way, yes, when he talks to the media, he's more to the center than virtually every other elected Democrat. All I care about is how he votes. And he votes with all of the Democrats all of the time. So he has some work to do. But here's my point. So how does it affect all of us? How does the Miami Stock Exchange sound to you? Meaning the New York Stock Exchange moves to Miami. I can predict it if Mamdani wins. That's exactly what they're going to do. You know why? Because there's a high concentration of very rich financial Jewish people in the New York Stock Exchange. And you know what? Fort Lauderdale to them sounds pretty good. living in Fort Lauderdale with a Miami sausage. Doesn't that sound great?
Interesting. All right. You know, I hope that New York gets its stuff together. I'd hate to see them because it's going to be painful to the people of New York. I mean, they've already got a lot of people who have done the exodus, and if Mamdani gets elected, it's probably the best news for Florida and a few other red states as well. All right, Ken, final thought before we have to let you go.
No, I think I've said it all. And
all right.
Yeah, I think the rank choice is going to backfire in their face, and then they're going to say, well, maybe we don't want to do this anymore.
Maybe. Thank you, Ken. Always appreciate the call. Always a good call, folks. 508-871-7000 and join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. George Landreth is with me, president of Frontiers of Freedom Institute out of D.C., founded by Senator Wallop. Great buddies with Ronald Reagan. Great history to the Frontiers of Freedom. George, how long can you stay with us? Because I think we got a couple minutes before break. Are you able to stay after, or are you off to?
I've got to run after the break. Yes.
Okay. So we don't got a lot of time to get into too much stuff, but I was going to get into. Well, I mean, oh my God, there's too many topics. Why don't you throw something out that you want to talk about? Well, we got a couple minutes left.
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is, of course, we focused on if socialist wins in New York City, the economic impact, but there's also his past rhetoric about defunding the police. He's backed away from that now, but I don't think it's because he doesn't believe in it. I think it's because his polling data tells him he's got to shut up and stop saying stupid stuff.
And people are starting to look into him and finding out his, like you said, to your point, that and he claimed to be Black and Asian, right, to get into college and didn't get in, and I think the best, just like everything else, right? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think the more light we shine on him, and he's not that old of a man, and he doesn't have a lot of accomplishments, to point to, certainly in the business community. Didn't he get elected to the state assembly or something? Isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a state assemblyman in New York, and I don't know what district he's from, but I'm thinking to myself, that must be a low IQ district, because electing a socialist is stupid. Look around the world at every nation.
AOC's gotten elected and reelected. Again, this comes back with low voter turnout, right? A very small percentage of the population decides what's going to happen for everyone else, folks, which is why incumbents fear high voter turnout big time. But we got to take our break here, hard break. George, thank you for hopping on for a little while and joining us. Always a pleasure. And hey, have a good day at church. Say hi to Laura for me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right. That's George Landreth, folks, from the Frontiers of Freedom Institute. And we're going to take our break here, the half-hour break on this Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter. You can join the conversation up until noon at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. We will be back in
live
2
and
minutes.
local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that
We're
truly
still
stands out?
streaming the audio, but
Yatco difference.
we're streaming
At Yatco,
online,
we're
George. This is
dedicated
still
to bringing you
live,
the
but,
best
thanks
customer
for jumping
service,
on.
the highest quality products,
Thank
and a
Always
commitment to
talk
making
to
your
you
life
tomorrow.
go
All right,
easier.
take care.
Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quansigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
93% of adults listen to the radio each week. Of those exposed to radio ads, over half made a purchase. Despite how often the media reports on newer forms of advertising, it is, in fact, free broadcast radio that most effectively reaches and truly influences customers. Radio allows you to place your company's message directly to the radio audience for 30 or 60 seconds, and it's a gold mine. Radio advertisements are more memorable compared to written and visual ads. It's just this simple. Sound is stored more effectively inside memories. Reach over 90% of this market's potential customers with your radio message on WCRN. Call 508-870-5803, extension 222, 508-870-5803, extension 222, or visit WCRNradio.com.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know of deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
Okay, Russ, you decided to use the classic Peter Blute bumper music coming in on that. Do you know what song that is? Where does that come from, Russ? Peter told me.
According to the screen, the name of the group is The Killers, and the name of the song is When You Were Young.
Okay, yeah. Peter once told me it was his kids who actually said you should use this, Dad. And on that note, Peter Blute, we're expecting Peter back behind the microphone next Sunday. So we'll be back to the normal Peter Blute show. Jerry Doherty still will tune in, of course, hop on at 9:30 on Sundays for Peter's show. So we appreciate that. 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000 to join the conversation from now until noon. And of course, 617-297-8388. A lot of topics we've covered there. We got a lot more things to talk about. Of course, this being the 1-year anniversary of the assassination attempt on Donald J. Trump, citizen at the time and former president, which in itself, being a former president, and at that point, the Republican nominee, Secret Service should have been a couple notches better than it was. Should it not have been? And they've only increased it. And remember, this was also a time where the Biden, or those controlling Biden, wanted to strip his Secret Service away, which was so asinine, being both a candidate and a former president. All former presidents get Secret Service protection. I mean, Jimmy Carter had it right up until the day he passed away. Now, sure, it wasn't the level of a president or a current candidate or something to that effect, but they also denied it to Robbie Kennedy, whose father was assassinated, whose uncle was assassinated as president. It's crazy, because now we definitively know that it wasn't actually Joe Biden making a lot of these decisions. So I wonder, did Joe Biden say don't give RFK Jr. Secret Service? Was it him trying to strip away Donald Trump's? What was the case there? You know, and a caller, I don't forget which show, which day on which show, was talking about Donald Trump should, maybe beef up the private security. And my point is, before he became president, citizen Trump, billionaire Trump, had pretty good security for himself. And the irony being, a lot of his personal bodyguard details as citizen Trump were actually former Mossad agents. So Trump has always had fantastic security, but now as he becomes president, you got the Secret Service who leads it. My understanding, and maybe someone knows better than I, that his private is still there. He's got Mar-a-Lago and things of that nature. But of course, Secret Service is supposed to take the lead on this. But if I was Donald Trump, I think I would want to surround myself with some pretty qualified people that I have real personal connections with, given everything else. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. Now, the talk that we're having about, and thanks to Jerry Doherty about informing us about that, because I missed it. I did not see that in the financial news, the incredible surplus that we had. Think about that. I would like to know, when was the last time we actually had a surplus? I'm sure it's happened, but to that degree, that's crazy. And the other part of why we would have a surplus, of course, it's because the tariffs, most of this is being brought in, but the cuts. So let's talk about the cuts for a bit, because, the State Department, right, just laid off, just Friday, 1,350 employees, 1,107 civil servants, and 246 foreign service officers got pink slips. And this was all part of Secretary Marco Rubio's plan to slim down a bloated bureaucracy. Yikes. And you got to do that. You got to do that because we've never had, and I shouldn't say we never, but our problem right now and in recent years has not been a revenue problem. To the point here of the $27 billion surplus in May, the Trump tax cuts in term one, and now there's, which amounts to saving trillions of dollars to us taxpayers. And yes, that does affect, I know the left wants to spin this all the time, that all these tax cuts are only being designed for the millionaires and billionaires. And I'll say it again, folks, it's not it's the loopholes. If you want millionaires and billionaires to pay more, because you just think they got to pay more because they have money, then it's the tax cuts and the loopholes that are all legal. And again, I go back to that great debate and conversation when Hillary, thinking she was clever, goes after Trump about paying, again, I hate this term, fair share. It's right up there with too big to fail. But everybody uses the same tax code. Donald Trump doesn't do anything tax-wise that everyone else either doesn't do or can't not do. And that's his point to her. Him being able to take $1 billion loss on his taxes, that meant that you had to lose the $1 billion to begin with. And you lost that because you gambled on something, you tried something, which would have created jobs and therefore additional revenue, and failed at it. And a lot of us have done that. I have had some spectacular failures. I mean, I've had some spectacular wins in business and hit some home runs in business. But not every time I got up to bat in business did it work. I have had some great failures in business. And the people who do that, they take those risks, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. When they don't, you do have this ability to write the losses off against any gains. And Donald Trump's point in that debate was, then change the tax code, because I use the same tax code as the billionaire donors that Hillary Clinton does, the George Soroses and so forth. And to his point, you're not going to change it because those are the people that are funding you. And they're not going to be happy with you if you take away the same tax rules that Donald Trump uses. We don't have tax rules and laws for individuals. It's across the board. So that's what you have to address on this. So our issue has never been revenue problem. We have a lot of revenue, more than any other country on the planet. Our problem is the other side of the ledger sheet, and that's the spending. And that has got to be cut. Now, Doge has done a great job, but remember, Doge doesn't actually have the authority to cut something. It's the cabinet secretaries for whatever department they're dealing with that falls under is the one who makes the changes. Doge can't go in and walk around an office somewhere in DC and says, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're fired. It doesn't work that way. They find where the bloat is. They find where the inefficiency is, whether it's the fact that they have antiquated computer systems running stuff, or computer systems that cannot communicate among departments or with each other, or it's just an antiquated system, like the retirement system with those files in a line mine, 500 feet under the ground type of stuff. Whatever it is, that's what. So they're the fact-seeking department, right? That's their purpose, and they bring that information. But those cuts, and this is the funny part about government here, it's hard to cut money. And I know that we joke about the fact that, oh, once something gets in, it's there forever. An act of Congress is there forever, and that's kind of true. And something I've always been a proponent of is something I call sunset clauses. That's what they call them. But I ran for Senate many years ago, state Senate, and one of my biggest issues or my platform was sunset clauses be attached to every piece of legislation. And all that simply means is that the funding for this automatically goes away in a year or 3 years or 5 years, depending on what it is. You got to use common sense here. Is this going to be a 1 year thing that we're going to do, or is this something that needs a 10-year run? Whatever it is, but somewhere in that legislation, a sunset clause is built in, and that says that this funding goes away unless it is renewed. And for it to get renewed, that means it's got to go back to the legislature. It has to be debated again. And you have members of the legislature, whether federal or state legislature, who may not have even held office when that legislation went in. So they have no idea that the taxpayers are still paying for this thing. So I think the fact that it's forced to come back up for a debate, at minimum, they get educated that we're spending money, and then it has to continue on its merit or not. And then you have something to look at and to say whether this is wisely done. This is good money being spent for a good cause, or this is good money going after bad money. What is it? Sunset clauses, I think, are just such a common sense thing to do. So our problem isn't the revenue, folks. It is often in the spending, and trying to cut what the government spends is so difficult, as we're finding out. So these cuts and suggestions have to be codified by the legislature and by the cabinet secretaries. So these big cuts and big goals, Rubio kicked off firings. He targeted 15% in the State Department of the U.S.-based workers. That's about 2,000 jobs total. He says 40 layers of bureaucracy also slows things down. In a leaner department means nimbler diplomacy. 40 layers. I mean, I could see 40 layers in a lasagna or a chocolate cake, but in government, man. So this bureaucratic, I'll be coming against the clock. We're going to have to take a final break of this hour, folks, here on hour 2 of the Peter Blute Show, the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Peter will be back behind the microphone, as we're hoping, on next Sunday. So looking forward to that. You can join the conversation for the remainder of this segment and up until noon at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget, our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. It appears on the screen in real time here, folks. Stick with us.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Are you tired of the Orwellian speech, the hypocrisy rampant throughout government and within the Beltway? I'm reminding you talk radio is the immune system to the partisan bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. Tune in to Joe Mangiacotti on WCRN 830 AM, where common sense meets common ground. Joe is the conservative voice with a twist, blending a constitutionalist respect for our founding principles with a libertarian's drive for freedom. He's got a unique style that's half constitutionalist, half common sense, and all about empowering you. Just listen to his callers.
Joe, I have to tell you first, I've listened to you a couple of times on your own show here, and I have to tell you, I enjoy listening to you. You have some really good, intelligent, cogent thoughts rather than just the constant monologue of conservative talk that sometimes we get wound up in.
Joe's even-tempered, intelligent approach cuts through the clutter and dives into the issues that matter to you. Join Joe Mangiacotti for Common Sense Conversation for the Common Sense Citizen and discover how logic, truth, and a calm voice can change minds, even those who might disagree at first. It's not just talk, it's a movement. Catch Joe Mangiacotti, WCRN 830 AM.
Did you know your business loses $1,685 per employee each year? Poor health doesn't just mean sick days. It drains energy, lowers productivity, and impacts your bottom line. I'm Kelly Hamilton, certified holistic nutritionist, ICU nurse, and owner of A Better Path to Wellness. I help businesses create healthier workplaces so employees thrive and companies save money. Let's optimize the wellness and productivity of your team. Call 774-253-4934 today.
We invite you to listen each weekend to the Voice of Truth broadcast with Pastor L.R. Shelton.
My friend, that is declaring yourself before God. You'll keep repeating over and over again what you are, what God has showed you.
That's the Voice of Truth broadcast each weekend on this station.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of hour two. We still got an hour after that to noon here on the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. Peter will be back behind the microphone if all goes well next Sunday morning, so we look forward to that. Russ, what was that, the music? I can't place it.
That was Booker T and the MGs, and the name of the song was Green Onions. And of course, earlier we also heard Time is Tight by Booker T and the MGs, and they do a version of Mrs. Robinson that's really good as an instrumental. And I mean, if you can find it, more power to you, because a lot of people usually think of Simon and Garfunkel when it comes to Mrs. Robinson.
Right. Interesting. Good job on the bumper music, Russ. All right, folks.
Thank you very much. I love doing it.
Yeah. All right, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Lines open and available. Russ is flying the board back at HQ. He'll get you set up. Reminding you, we do stream, or I always stream the show on my social media platforms, as well as the station's social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube channel, me also on LinkedIn, and we do stream my show straight to Rumble. So if you go to Rumble, there's the Joe Mangiacotti Show. And even though it's Peter's show, I didn't have the setup for that for Peter, but you could do it as if you were listening or watching my show. And I'm talking about the cuts. We've got, we don't have a revenue problem. And the fact that, you know, Jerry let us know about this, I missed this with Scott Besson, the $27 billion in May surplus, which is fantastic. Can you imagine? I mean, even we would be happy if we didn't have a deficit every month, but to have a surplus is incredible, and to that level. And again, you know, to our early point about the fact that these economists are letting their TDS, right, the Trump derangement syndrome, I think, affect this, because are they all that bad as economists? And if so, why do we keep listening to them? And to Jerry's point earlier, you know, when are they going to say, okay, we kind of got this wrong, you know, it doesn't work, and, you know, Trump was right on this. And just a very short time ago, when these tariffs were coming in, and I was getting, you that listen to my show, those of you that do know that I got a couple calls and pushback saying these are horrible, I don't go with these tariffs, I think they're going to be all. And what did I say then? Take a breath. How many times has what Donald Trump done or what he said turned out to be right? Does he not deserve, hasn't he earned the benefit of the doubt on this stuff? Let this happen. His intention back when he, you know, the Liberation Day there is not to put these in and keep them there forever and ruin the world economy. That was never the plan. The plan was to slap a lot of these countries upside the head that have been screwing us on tariffs for decades, I go back to the fact, and I know I've said it before, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's not like you can't find the videos of Donald Trump 30 years ago on, yes, believe it or not, The View, Jay Leno, other daytime TV talk shows. As billionaire real estate developer Donald Trump saying, man, we're getting screwed. And you know, even saying, look, then a citizen Trump, when he was 35, 40, 45 years old, he was saying, I can negotiate a better deal with China and Japan and in Europe. Then he was saying that. So give him the benefit of the doubt. Those tariffs weren't meant to be permanent. They were meant to get the attention of these countries and used as a leverage to negotiate. And what has happened? We have had countries who have come back and they have simply said, how about no tariffs for America? How about that? Or just simply reciprocal. You'll make a few bucks on our exports. We'll make a few bucks on yours, apparently 27 billion in a month. But the point is, let him do what he's got to do and give him a little bit of a leeway, because it seems to work out more often than not. So back to these cuts in Rubio. Now, Rubio, as secretary, and he's holding several hats now, right? But Secretary of State, he's saying, hey, this is bloated department. Bureaucratic bloat. And Byron York notes that the department ballooned, because you're talking about 1,350 people got laid. Oh my God. Well, let's look at this. 57,000, and actually 57,340 employees to be exact in 2007. To last year, that department had 80,214 employees. That's nearly 23,000 people added before this devastating cut of 1,350. So is Rubio trimming fat or muscle? I would think that's a little fat, because any department in corporate America, and it's done all the time, folks, will tell each department head, you know what? You need to cut 3%, 5%, sometimes more. If a company's in trouble, it's restructuring. But every department can find a few percent of fat to cut or bloat or redundant operations. Now, that's a lot of desk jobs added in 17 years, folks. 23,000 desk jockeys. So I don't think 1,350 people being let go versus the 20,000 we added since 2007 are all that ridiculous. So who's getting hit on this? Well, layoffs slammed offices like global women's issues, conflict and stabilization and population, refugees and migration. Also cut human rights and labor, environmental and cultural affairs. And it's not the departments go away, it's the number of people working in the departments, because when you look, you will find redundancy, uselessness, inefficiency, i.e. bloat. ABC News says even diplomatic security took a hit, more than expected. So refugees, human rights, and security, that's a bold chopping block. But I don't think it's going to affect the operation or the smoothness of those departments. But the critics, of course, they're going to sound off, right? You got Democrats like Chris Van Hollen, who now I recognize the name because of his little trip there and stuff. Never heard the name before that little showmanship stuff happened. But Van Hollen and ex-diplomats call this, of course, a national security risk. It's almost like you could write their response, right? It's so predictable. We know their talking points. We know how they're going to attack this, often either being ignorant of a lot of facts or choosing not to acknowledge them. But getting expertise amid crises like Ukraine in the Middle East, they think this is going to be a problem for the security or the security department for the State Department. And then the protesters, right? Where's Marco? Chanting, where's Marco outside Foggy Bottom with signs like resist fascism. Fascism. That's a stretch. Unless paperwork is tyranny. But again, I'm back to the fact that a lot of times these protesters, and it's been very easy to expose them, has it not? By just simply asking real tough questions like, what are you protesting? What does your sign mean? What is fascism? Or the ones where, throw Trump in for the laws. What laws? I mean, we've seen those interviews on the street, folks, haven't we? Where, whether it's Johnny from Primetime or some other citizen journalist who does the man on the street thing. And what are you protesting? And how many times have you heard, well, I'm not quite sure. I just showed up because I got to support my people and I got to fight fascism. Well, but what's the issue that you're protesting? Especially the idiots with from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. And the fact that they have no idea of the genocide that they're chanting for and they're saying when they say river to the sea. And they have the chutzpah to call the right or Trump Hitler when they're literally calling for the extermination of Jews. How weird is that? How messed up is that? So at this protest, you had employees were clapped out, some crying as they turned in laptops. Notices were sent while Rubio was flying back from Malaysia, by the way. Talk about timing. And some of them, these pink slips, some of them were actually rescinded due to errors, because that's going to happen. That's just the way it works. But email layoffs during a summit, that's interesting, even for DC. All right, folks, what do you say? What say you? 508-871-7000. We're going to take our final break of this hour, come back for hour 3 of the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN, folks. So we'll do that. We'll come back. We'll finish with the third and final hour. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. And again, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2, and at this point, 2 and 10, I guess. Take care.
Headline news, weather, and local information. 830 WCRN.
Fox News, I'm Pam Puso. 1 year after Butler, Pennsylvania, a new report sheds light on the security failures that led to the shooting of then-candidate Donald Trump.
20-year-old Thomas Crooks shot at Trump from a rooftop near the rally, killing an attendee. 2 others were also injured. Crooks was quickly shot and killed by a counter sniper.
Fox's Chanley Painter, the report exposes mismanagement and missed warnings. Search and rescue operations suspended in Central Texas due to fresh flood concerns.
Level 3 out of 4 flood risk for the day. And that is exactly where we saw the worst of that flooding last weekend. This morning, we've had really significant rains.
Fox's Rick Reichmuth, dozens are missing after the July 4th tragedy. America's listening to Fox News.
No one wants to leave behind stress for their family. That's why a trust or a will is so important. Without one, your assets might go to the wrong people or leave out loved ones. Also, probate is long, expensive, and often avoidable with a revocable trust. Trustandwill.com makes it simple to create a personalized estate plan. A trust or will provides clarity and peace of mind. Get 20% off on your estate plan documents by visiting trustandwill.com/radio.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
This is the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN. To join in the conversation, call 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Peter Blute.
All right, folks, welcome back to the third and final hour of the Peter Blute Show here at AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. We look forward to having Peter in studio and back behind the microphone next Sunday morning. And, of course, Jerry Doherty from Making Money Last. He slides in at 9:30 every week. And he brings us like this great information, which I totally missed, this $27 billion with a B surplus in May. Well done, Trump, I guess is the only way to say about that, right? All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. As we said, it was a very somber anniversary today, a year ago in Butler, Pennsylvania, is when crooks tried to assassinate Donald Trump, but I don't think we have all the information and all the facts that we should have about that. And this past week, we saw this friction between AG Bondi and Patel and Bongino. But Patel and Bongino came out and said, look, we're not going anywhere. I think that the media tried. Look, I think the left media, mainstream media, as you say, right, they just want to run with something like that because they are always trying to portray either the first term or the current term of the Trump administration as in chaos, right? That's always the word they want to use. It's chaos. Is it really chaos? You know, the thing about, and I've seen this in business, that if you see turnover and a lot of people being let go and you talk to the owner of that company, often you're going to find because they were lacking. They weren't delivering on time, on budget, whatever the case is. But Patel and Bongino made it very clear that they're not going anywhere and that they will serve at the pleasure of the president for as long as the president will have them. So that, I'm glad, but I think Pam Bondi needs to, I don't know, I think she kind of screwed up on this thing with the way she went. All right, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Some other things, I guess, that we can get into and talk to. And don't forget, we are streaming on social media, so you can go to Facebook, X, you can go to Rumble, and so forth. But let's go to the phones right now. Don in Stoughton's been waiting patiently. Hey, Don, what say you?
Yes. Good morning, Joseph. How are you, my friend?
Very well. Long time. Hope you're well.
Yes, you've been lucky until now. You got the short stick today.
Awesome.
2 quick points on the Biden's physician in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
The physician for Joe Biden was paid for by the taxpayers, if I understand correctly. So in other words, his work product belongs to the taxpayer.
Interesting.
So when he is asked by Congress to divulge what he did or did not do or what happened while he was accepting pay from the taxpayers, we own his work product. He has to tell us, Joe.
That's actually a great point. I hadn't even thought about that because, look, I mean, your insurance company, right? They get your, say you go see a psychiatrist or a therapist. Do you know that those notes are absolutely available to some office worker in the insurance company because they're paying the bill? And you're like, well, wait a minute. What about HIPAA? What about, that's the way it works. Who paid for it? Who paid for it? They get to look at it. That's a good point, Don.
Joe,
I haven't heard that raised up on
adage?
the Congress yet.
Yeah, who pays the piper calls the tune.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
Good point.
So
on that.
we, the taxpayers, paid for Joe Biden's physician. Joe Biden, he had two obligations: to keep the president healthy and to inform the American people the condition of the president. Those were both obligations he was paid for.
That is a good point. And thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. You know, that look, plus the fact is the guy, my understanding, was given immunity to anything. And,
that is correct. Yeah.
There's the questioning about this, and we're not asking, and maybe we should, but the results of the tests, and we just, the questions were done, weren't they? Like, did you do this test?
Correct.
Did you see this?
Were you asked to lie or commit, or submit papers, fraudulent papers for Joe Biden? Well, I plead the fifth. You can't plead the fifth, Jack. That's the American taxpayers. We want to know what you did or did not do. We paid for you to do a certain job. Did you do it or did you not?
And Don, isn't that a catch-22 for him? Because if you didn't do these tests, then you're not a good doctor, right?
Correct.
So you can't be a good doctor and not do they can't exist in the same plane. Either you were horrible because you didn't do them, or you did do them and you won't let us know you did them. You can't have it both ways.
Should we paying you fire you for the lack of doing your due diligence and what you're supposed to do as a doctor?
Especially this whole thing with the levels and stuff, because and I got to go back a couple of years ago, and it didn't get the attention at the time, Don. I thought it should get, but remember he did a speech and he referenced oil cancer, which of course, what the hell is oil cancer? But he said a couple of years before he left office, that's how me and so many other people from there he was talking about the oil and the mud, the grit or whatever on the windshield. He said, that's why me and so many other people from that area have oil cancer.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Do you remember one of the first days he walked into the White House? Somebody mentioned to him, salute the Marine. Joe Biden wasn't sure what to do, so he mumbled, salute Marine, and walked right past the Marine without saluting him. I always remember that to this day. From day one, Joe, Joe Biden was completely out of it.
They were able to shield that from us because of COVID during the campaign, right? We had the first base
COVID and a compliant liberal media.
Absolutely. And
now,
that's
second quick point, Joe, on Butler. On Butler. Do you remember that there was a police officer who tried to climb up on the roof?
Yeah, and got shot at.
And when he saw that the kid saw him and turned with the rifle, the cop jumped down and ran away. Joe, if I were there, I would have stayed, waited about 10 seconds so that the kid would think everything was normal, and I would have reached up over the roof and discharged my pistol, notifying everybody that shots had been fired.
Yeah.
Where had the shots been fired? Everybody would have directed their attention to where the cop was. They would have seen the kid on the roof, and Trump never would have been shot. Why did that cop run away as opposed to actually commit to try to do something to bring attention? Even if they threw rocks up on the damn roof to distract the sniper, the kid, nobody did anything, Joe. They ran away.
Don, when that police officer went up the ladder and peeked over and Crooks turned around to fire at him, okay, now, first of all, the fact that he realizes there's a police officer there, which accelerated his, turning around to shoot, it distracted him. So whether it was the throwing the rocks or even at that point, if the officer discharged his weapon, not even into the kid, but discharged a weapon. All of a sudden, to your point, shots fired.
Shots fired.
Trump's going to be escorted off the stage, right? They're going to body shield him and get him off. At least that might have saved Corey, right?
Correct.
There's so many levels of failure in Butler and things that just don't add up from this. Now the stupidity that we're learning about the drone pilot, didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Communication between local police and Secret Service communication center.
Yeah. There's some serious issues. And as Donald Trump, as the man who actually got shot in the sitting president, I would hope he and maybe he is behind the scenes, but I would be yelling and screaming as commander in chief for answers, and I would want some sacrifices. Somebody's going to
no, I'd want some heads to roll too. But I mean, the first thing you do, or I would do in a building shooting, I'd walk in and fire one shot. What would that tell the perpetrator inside the building, Joe?
Yeah.
Somebody else is in a building with a damn gun.
And we know you're there.
Because they're going to find you.
Yeah. Stop
shooting.
Yeah. No. 100% right, Don. Too many things just are, is it that? Could we actually have this cascading effect of that much stupidity and lack of experience, and even right down to the fact that the pre-exam, right, the person sent out to, kind of assess it, and first time they ever did it. I don't care. There's got to be a first time for everybody, but you're talking about a former president, the leading candidate in the current election. And the man that, they knew, and we know that they knew, we had the Iranian fatwa on him. We had incredible levels of threat. So anybody who would be doing a threat assessment, and you don't have to be a veteran, bodyguard, you don't have to have years of experience, just about anybody who had this data as to the threat level that existed against Donald Trump would say this is wholly inadequate. I would have not even liked, if I could have stopped him, if I was involved that day and I could have stopped it from an outdoor thing, I would have said, I much prefer to move the venue to an indoor arena, just because your threat level is so high that you are literally a sitting duck out there in a field.
Well, one last point, Joe, on Butler. When Trump was shot at and he hit the ground, and when he was pulled back up again, if you look overhead, the flag was sticking out straight. That means there was a good 20 to 30 mile an hour wind blowing, and it was blowing into the president's face, Trump's face. That pushed that bullet a few millimeters away from the president, because otherwise, if that breeze hadn't been blowing, Joe, Trump would have been hit in the head.
Yeah, good point, because it made for a fantastic photo, but it meant that you had a good crosswind going on. Don, we're against the clock. Thank you for the call, and always great to hear from you. Glad you picked up the phone. Take care, my friend. All right, folks, we're going to take our first break of the third hour of the Peter Blute Show. Every Sunday from 9 to noon. Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 and 10.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
WCRN Radio is thrilled to bring back a legendary voice, and now you can help tell the stories. Paul Harvey captivated millions with his unique style and unmistakable voice. By sponsoring the rest of the story, your brand can become a part of this rich tradition, and it links your business with a program that people love and trust. So don't miss this unique opportunity to grow your business while becoming part of something truly special. For sponsorship details, just go to WCRNradio.com.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
End your day on a high note. It's North Star Music. Evenings at 8 on Radio Central WCRN.
At the center of it all, Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Think you're dealing with drug poisoning, chemical poisoning, food poisoning? Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the third hour of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN, Radio Central, where you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000, and the text line is running. So at 617-297-8388, you can text in. Again, that is 617-297-8388. And don't forget, we do stream. I always stream my show, whether I'm filling in for Peter Blute or I'm doing my own show weekdays at 1 o'clock. You can always watch it on the station's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and then on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I. That would be X and Facebook, LinkedIn profile, and I do stream to Torch TV as well. So many ways to listen, many ways to watch. Don't forget, you can tell Alexa to play WCRN, and she'll do that with no questions asked. Something else, we got Trump's crackdown on pro-Palestinian campus activities. And we've got a federal trial in Boston challenging the administration's arrest and deportations of non-citizen students and faculty for pro-Palestinian activism, raising First Amendment concerns. Or is it? I know that's the spin they want to put on that. But you're a guest in this country with a visa, whether it's a student visa, travel, whatever the visa is, you're still a guest. And you're here by invitation that has been extended when you've applied for that visa. And Marco Rubio answered a question a couple of times, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically said, you know, if you come here and you do these very disruptive anti-American activities, if you had said to us during the visa application process, this is what I'm coming to do, as he said, I hope we wouldn't have issued it to you. So when you come here as a guest, as you would if you came to somebody's home as a guest, do you not behave yourself? If you were walking to somebody's home as a guest, would you start criticizing the way they live, what they do for work, what their house looks like, the decor? Would you put your feet up in the furniture or set a fire in the middle of their living room? Hopefully not. So when you come into this country as a guest and you start doing anti-American things, and you can protest as a guest. Nobody has a problem with you protesting, which is that First Amendment right. And even though you're not a citizen, you enjoy the benefit of that. But let's stop confusing protests with vandalism. Let's stop confusing protests with violence. When you start throwing Molotov cocktails at vehicles, or scratching them, or damaging them, or shooting into a Tesla dealer, or burning the American flag, those are all crimes, and they're not exempt because you've been self-declared as a protester. And I know I brought this up before, but it's still one of my favorite protest scenes is those jamokes protesting, I think it was climate change, on the road into Coachella, but they were on Native American land. And when those tribal police showed up, they didn't care about optics from social media. And that one tribal officer comes in with the SUV, smashes the trailer out of the way, gets out of the vehicle, and he actually draws down on the protesters and orders them down on the ground and starts to arrest them. And these protesters, with all of the Karen-ness that they can muster, and this arrogance and this eliteness that is just, but literally saying, but we're protesters. We're protesters. They as if that's a shield. That by saying, but we're protesters, that the officer, tribal or not, was going to go, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were protesting. Yeah, the law doesn't apply to you when you're protesting. You can break all the laws you want in the name of protesting, sure. You can block the roadway. You can limit or inhibit or stop people's freedom of movement. It's called false arrest or detention. You can, write and graffiti on personal property all you want. You can send anything you want to fire. When you're protesting, all those laws don't apply to you. And he was going to get back in his SUV and just leave them alone. I really think they thought that, because you see, in go online, you can watch these. And sometimes my favorite clip that might pop up, and I'll actually stop for a couple of seconds to watch Karens, right? These entitled people who really think the law doesn't apply to them. That is because their cause supersedes the law and now trumps, no pun intended, your rights. So this trial judge, William Young, he examines if deportations violate free speech. Is that asinine on its face value, or is that just me? Deportations violate free speech. So I don't understand that correlation. Because of free speech in this country, you can enter the country as a non-citizen, come into our country and do what you want under free speech. Now, free speech is part of our Constitution, which is guaranteeing that particular right to citizens of the United States. And what does free speech have to do with deporting you? And you can only be deported if you are not a citizen, first of all. Second of all, if you're being deported, it's because you violated the understandings, terms, conditions of your visa, meaning you being a guest in the country. Right? They had that Tufts Ozturk, Columbia professor. I know the media likes to say was targeted. And it chills the academics. But here's the thing on that. Academic, being a professor is one thing, and it's thing. It has nothing to do with being a guest in the country. But you're a guest who may happen to be a professor at Tufts or anywhere else. Again, depending on what you do, doesn't change the law just for you. It makes no sense. Or am I reading this wrong? 508-871-7000. The plaintiff argument here is political speech is core to the First Amendment. Deportations are punitive. First of all, thank you for that refresher that free speech is core to the First Amendment. No kidding. But the second part of that plaintiff argument is deportations are punitive. No, they're not. Let's get that straight. They're not punitive. If you violate the rules of the visa, then we take the visa away. It's not punitive. It's the way it works. And here's the other part of that. When you are a guest here under a visa, act like a guest in another country. You can protest, but real protests, Martin Luther King protests, not Antifa protest, not BLM protest, not Floyd type of protest, peaceful protest. And that means you do not destroy property, you do not set anything on fire, you do not hit police officers with bottles, rocks, pipes, frozen water, or anything else. So the deportation has to do with your visa, your behavior, your personal conduct. And if you exceed what's acceptable, yes, the Secretary of State, i.e. State Department, has every authority and right to revoke that visa and tell you, time to go home. Don't care where you go, but you can't stay here. Now, the administration on this says, first it has claims no formal policy exists. But critics see a pattern, they say. And that sounds like a dodge. Your thoughts on that? And yes, they drew attention to themselves. Because if they're up there causing civil unrest that is resulting in personal property damage, personal damage, it's perfectly normal and I think acceptable to ask the question, wait a minute, are you here on a visa? Are you a citizen? You can criticize even as a non-citizen from another country. I mean, we've got members in Congress who aren't born here. They're here from other countries, and we took them in and we provided them with all kinds of benefits, and now they tell us how horrible we are. And that's okay. They're actually sitting members of Congress who every day tells you how awful you are for being an American. Did we remove them from office? No, because they're allowed to say that. The idiots that keep reelecting them, that's their issue, but it is our issue because they're in the Congress. But no, you don't get deported just for saying, I don't like this country, I have these problems with it. So stop confusing peaceful protesting with the violence and destruction that comes with that. And I guess the question on this then becomes, well, how does the Massachusetts academic community feel about this chilling effect? Well, here's the thing. It's irrelevant that they're a professor or that they're a teacher. It's irrelevant that they're a bioresearcher. It's irrelevant what they do for a job. What's relevant is their behavior in breaking the law. It's what's relevant is how they violated the visa that they're here as a guest on. That's what matters. So with all due respect to the academic community in Massachusetts, first of all, you'd think the fact that your academic community, you would have the intelligence and wherewithal to understand the difference. But folks, we have to take our mid-hour break here on the Sunday edition of the Peter
Radio
Blute Show
is next.
on AM
Stay
830
tuned
WCRN.
to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Here we go again. Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 495. The course came through the winter grid, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
We invite you to listen to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
And I also believe the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. I believe that the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. I believe Paul was right when he told Timothy.
That's Pastor Ray McMahon with the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast right here on this station.
Jesus is Our Shepherd airs every Sunday at noon right here on 830 WCRN.
If you're as passionate about healthy eating as I am, you'll love New Kitchen. New Kitchen is a culinary gem for health-conscious food enthusiasts. They are committed to using the freshest ingredients from start to finish. Their ethically sourced organic coffee not only satisfies your taste buds, but also supports sustainability. Because New Kitchen uses fresh, local produce, there is nature's goodness in every bite. New Kitchen's refreshing cold-pressed juices, smoothies, and acai bowls are packed with vitamins and nutrients to keep you at your best. These aren't just drinks, they're a rejuvenating experience. Find New Kitchen at 3 convenient locations in Worcester, Somerville, and Newburyport. Visit their website at thenewkitchen.com to explore their menu and place your order online. That's spelled N-U, not N-E-W. New Kitchen, where the passion for health meets the art of cuisine. Eat clean, drink naked.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final half hour of the Sunday edition of the Peter Blute Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Last half hour of the 3-hour program, which means you can join the conversation for the remainder of this hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line 617-297-8388. And don't forget, we are streaming, so you can go to our Facebook page at the station or YouTube channel, and also my platforms, X, Facebook, LinkedIn profile, as well as Rumble. So thanks to the streamers who have joined us. And again, you can do that anytime. Now, my show is always turned into a podcast, but I will take this version of the Peter Blute and add it to my podcast source. So if you haven't subscribed at Spotify or Podbean or iHeart or TuneIn, you can do that as well. All right, 508-871-7000. So there's something else that always kind of, grinds my gears, I guess, is when they start talking about, this money being sent. Money magically appeared for the illegals when the previous administration decided to tell immigration stop housing, because what used to happen is you came over the border, Border Patrol intercepted you, you went to a detention facility, and then the due process was, send you home, unless you requested asylum. That's fine. So a whole new set of rules kick in, and according to our own rules, you got to have a asylum hearing in 30 days if you're in custody. So they changed it. No, we're not going to put you in custody. We're going to do this thing called parole. We're going to parole you to the interior. And then they said, hey, where do you want to go? We'll put you on a bus or a plane to whatever city you want in the country. And despite Binders and Jen Psaki's trying to spin it that there were no midnight flights or overnight flights, there were, of course, because there were reporters at the tarmac when these things landed. And they sent out all these illegals on parole. And they gave them these forms that said, notice to report. And with that, they were allowed to legally walk around the country because they were waiting for a hearing that could be 7, 8, or more years down the road. And after 120 days, they can apply for a work permit. And they get a Social Security now, not a Social Security, they get a tax ID number, and then they can go off and get a job. But all of a sudden, millions, and then turns out to be billions of dollars got redirected or were found to pay for hotels and shelters. And all this money got directed to NGOs. Where the hell did the money come from? Now, Trump just reallocated the money that was being used for these illegals to house them and put it into a veterans housing. And Maura Healey has some problems here in Massachusetts. Now, let me take a pause for a second. 508-871-7000 to join the conversations. Elaine from Framingham would like to jump in. Hey, Elaine, long time. What say you?
Yeah, how you doing? I've been listening, but it's just crazy. We're driving home from our place in Plymouth, so I always have you on my buds because my family would go crazy if I they don't want to listen.
Your family doesn't want to listen to me? Oh, my goodness.
They just can't the talk radio stuff on the weekend. They think I should give it a break.
They don't know what you know best.
Yeah,
what you do.
Exactly. But this whole thing with Trump, everything is working out almost like as his vision. Except this Epstein business, that I don't understand. There's something rotten there.
Mm-hmm.
But with the illegal immigrant business and the stuff that's going on in California, I don't know why those people aren't arrested. Like, I don't know how that's even allowed. It's like, it's shocking, that these people are doing this to our law enforcement, and they appear to be getting away with it, and then the money, I think a lot had to do with that USAID money and just get redirected and funneled to different places.
Yeah.
And why can't we find that out? There's just so many things. I think in time, more is going to come to light. But so far, everything Trump has almost like a visionary, like the tariffs. Look at that. When I saw that this morning, everybody was screaming from the rooftops that he was going to kill the economy, and he's not.
Well, I got to tell you, I've said that. Oh, first of all, to your point, Elaine, about yes, I agree 100%. Because there was a point here that if anyone assaulted a police officer, and they put out that call, officer under attack or shots fired, or they just call for backup, police from everywhere showed up, and people were getting arrested. Right? People were putting the bracelets were on, and they were spending the night at the Blue Light Inn. It was going to happen. Now, it's as if in some of these, and again, air quotes for those not watching, sanctuary cities, because they don't really exist, by the way. They have these orders that it's acceptable. There's no consequences for doing that, and that's absolutely crazy. And yes, the tide has turned under this administration. And as far as visionary goes, I've said this before, Elaine, I'm sure, because I know you listen fairly regularly, is I think in the bigger picture, we look back, and not even looking back, I'm looking at it now, and I'm saying, I think the 4-year break between the terms might actually, in the bigger picture, long run, be good.
Absolutely.
Be good, because he had those 4 years to take a breather, and he didn't ignore the presidency. He just simply used that time to formulate how to do this. Because let's face it, Elaine, when he got sworn in January of 2017, he was a neophyte. He had never held elected office. He was used to running billion-dollar real estate empire. And in that world, when Donald Trump said, it's a good idea, that meant you do it. It's like being a captain on a ship. The captain says, oh, man, I really like veal piccata. Guess what the chef's making for dinner? Now, was that an order? No, but it happens. And I think we saw that problem with Elon Musk too, right? Elon came in and he didn't understand how government works, right? Because he walked into Twitter, 80% of the workforce gone. He changed this, got rid of that. You just do it. And he doesn't understand it. Well, Trump learned how to be president in term one. He got the break, and he used that time. In his words, now he knows who's stupid. He knows who's smart. He knows the backstabbers. He knows the snakes. So there's a big change. And look at the speed at which he has done everything, including nominating people approved into cabinet positions and things of that nature. So in the big picture, I think the break was good for us. And now I think it does border on visionary at this point in a lot of ways.
He planned the whole time. That 4 years, he like you said, he knew then all the backstabbers, all the people that were trying to undermine. He knew it then, and I don't, if he didn't have the break, I don't think the second term would have been as successful as what we're facing right now.
No, because absolutely. Absolutely, because he took a lot of unfortunately, he took a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing in the first term because he actually trusted senators who, even right down to say the U.S. attorneys, which everybody technically resigns and he reappoints, but he just expected, because this was his first rodeo at the time, he expected that I got elected, everybody's going to be on board, everybody's going to try to do what I got elected on. The same vision and campaign promises, everybody's going to work with me to get that done. No. And he found out that's not the case. So it's amazing at the speed and the amount, even Democrats, honest Democrats, I know that's an oxymoron, but honest Democrats.
One is Fetterman. Who do we have as an honest Democrat? There's nobody.
Well, my point being that even Democrats, if they're real about it, are saying, wow, he's getting a lot done. I mean, wasn't there some former Biden people who said, man, I wish we had a boss that we could work like that with? It's crazy.
They did say that. I just wish that they're spending. I can't wait for the midterms because the Democrats and their behavior and what they're doing have exposed them more. That they, like even this Mandami guy, like in New York, he can't win. He can't. But if anything, it's people even watching that and then watching the Democrats' behavior of what's been going on. I hope that we get more seats, and then even, he's a lame duck, but if he has more support, then even better things can happen. And they can revisit the bill and cut out more. I think the Big Beautiful Bill was the best that it could be, but if you have more people, like Lindsey Graham, he needs to go. I don't trust him at all, and he's one who specifically presented himself as in Trump's first term that he was with him, but then when Trump lost, he just exposed himself as a total rhino, and I know Peter Blute hates that term, but that's the only way I can explain it because they don't act in the Republican favor. They always vote the opposite. And so just be a Democrat if you're going to be a Democrat. If you're going to vote like a Democrat, I don't know.
But Elaine, the question becomes, and this is what we keep asking, what is a Democrat today? Who is the speaker of your party? Who is your leader? Is it AOC? Is it going to be Mandami? Is it Fetterman? Is it Gavin Newsom? What the hell is the Democratic Party today? Especially when we go all the way back, to Ronald Reagan, that I didn't leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party left me. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. What is the Democratic Party today?
Yeah,
and why are they letting the extreme left progressive socialists redefine their party? Now, Donald Trump redefined the Republican Party. I don't think there's any question with that.
Yeah.
But we're against the clock. Elaine, final thought real quick, because I get a hard break.
Yeah, I just looking forward to how it's going to unfold.
All right, thank you, folks. Back in 2 and 10. We'll go to the phone lines on the way back.
Radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
When you find yourself in a corner, you need someone who's got your back. Describe.ai is a natural language search engine that provides access to legal research when you need it the most. Powered by AI to help humans search more than 3 million judicial summaries in both English and Spanish. This app is completely free because access to justice is this company's why. Visit Describe.ai to find the case law that has your back. That's DESCRYBE.ai.
Have you mixed your pain meds, your sleep meds, your allergy meds? Call the Poison Helpline. Has your child eaten a tube of toothpaste, a chip of paint, a wild mushroom? Call the Poison Helpline. Have you been bitten by a spider, a snake, an insect? Call the Poison Helpline. Poisonings can happen at the home, on the job, or in the great outdoors. Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. 1-800-222-1222. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Dr. Satya Mitra has journeyed from a childhood of poverty and homelessness to a successful career as a financial advisor, motivational speaker, and community leader. Now inspired by his guru, he uses his experiences to positively affect the lives of underprivileged people. We strive to house our blindness, poverty, homelessness, female empowerment, and good citizenship initiatives within the Joy Guru Humanitarian Center. If you wish to contribute or know deserving persons or initiatives that could use our assistance, please contact us at 508-641-8441.
Now, back to the Peter Blute Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN.
All right, Russ, where's that from?
That is the Average White Band, and this one was called Cut the Cake, and earlier we heard Pick Up the Pieces.
We're incorporating a little, music DJ into the talk show, the Peter Blute Show. Thank you, Russ. Peter
Well,
Blute
see,
Show.
I miss it, Joe. What can I say? And this is about the closest thing I could come to it.
That's right. Work it in. Work out whatever you need to work out, Russ.
Thank
All
you,
right,
sir.
folks. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. This is the Peter Blute Show. Peter is out, but we're expecting him back behind the microphone next Sunday. I'm Joe Mangiacotti sitting in for Peter Blute. You can join the conversation for the remainder of this hour at 508-871-7000. Let's jump to the phones because Tom in Lunenburg has been waiting patiently. Hey, Tom, what say you?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, what happened to Peter anyways? What's he, it's medical or what? He's been out a long time.
Yeah, he'll be back next Sunday. We're confident. I talked to him the other day, and he said, he thinks he'll be back next week. So we're looking forward to it.
Oh, good. Happy to have him back. Hey, did you ever hear of this Calabra Ativa in Massachusetts?
Calabra Ativa.
Yeah, they get millions and millions of dollars from the federal government.
Okay.
And the one that's ahead of it, she's an illegal alien. She's a black lady, an illegal alien. ICE tried to raid it, and they wouldn't let her in. They wouldn't let them in. She helps the illegal alien. She's the one that went around to, the hotels for the illegals, like the one in Auburn, they booked up all. She's the one that was doing all this stuff. She gets them the apartments. When people got 3 acres, they rent the apartments for the illegals, or they rent the townhouses and all this stuff. They're using our money to put in these criminals. I thought this money was stopped. Why is she still getting money, and why is she deported? She's an illegal alien. The reporter says she's an illegal alien, the head of this federal agency. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with the person you're talking about, but let me just, hearing this and looking at this, here's the thing. It goes back to when I talked to you guys about this a long time ago, a couple of years ago. I said, keep your eyes on NGOs. That's where the problem's going to be. So now you're telling me that there's an illegal alien that was able to finagle somehow the contracts to house other illegals. So she must have, I'm assuming somewhere, folks, that if we drill down to this, Tom, we're going to find an NGO, a non-government organization that is funded by government taxpayer, meaning taxpayer money, government money, but then they can go out, they get the money for whatever the mission is, and that mission, and we've been looking at this all across the country, literally billions and billions of dollars. And that was my point a little while ago when I started this out, because I was going to get into Governor Healy faces pressure over $1 billion migrant shelter program. But again, this money magically appeared for this. We don't have it for anything else. We don't have it for the veterans, right? We don't have it for anything. But all of a sudden, all this money gets directed to these hotels. And yes, landlords, I look back and go, I wish I didn't get rid of some of the 3 families and property I had in Worcester. I would be able to be renting it out to and getting a government check. But they're doing that. Tons of money, billions of dollars. So this illegal finagled the bagel and was able to be the person who places them in, of course, taking a very, I'm sure, a healthy chunk of money between the government paying and what the actual cost is. So yeah, my question is, if that's the case, Tom, what tax ID number is this person operating under? What is the organization that is getting the money? In other words, let's go back to the Commonwealth. Who are you cutting the friggin' check to? And what's the application process?
They just nabbed a guy in Natick, Brazilian. He was selling licenses and birth certificates to Brazilian people, and they were illegal.
Mm-hmm.
They arrested 1,000 people with fake licenses and birth certificates. This guy should have been in prison to throw away the key. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And there's another thing. The president's going to start hammering down. These people, I seen some videos. This guy took bricks, threw them at the heads of ICE, missed this guy about a foot. I would have took out my pistol, shoot him right in the leg. Right in the leg, I would have shot him. That solves the situation. They're not doing that. When you have rioters, also, you have all these rioters out of control, pushing ICE. Did you ever go to Texas? They have these things called cattle prods. They're about maybe 2-3 feet long.
Yeah, I know what they are.
You take one of these mothers, touch the guy, 20,000 volts. Bang, the guy's laid out on the sidewalk.
It's a form of tasing. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's better than the goddamn tasers. You hit them, you can do it better than no time, pick them off the ground, throw them in the bus, and that's it. Instead, they're pushing the protesters back and forth. That's useless. They got technology today to simplify all this, eliminate all this violence, and they're not doing it. Trump really got to hammer down on this. Really, all these protesters, they're running them over like crazy. I've been seeing a lot.
Yeah.
These people are so stupid. They stand, and I see a lot of Karens.
Oh my God!
These are the
Karen's
ones.
and Tom, just on that, because I was watching a video the other day, and there was somebody in just a standard caravan, but they were protesting and trying to stop, and that absolutely grinds my gears when these protesters get in front of the roadway, and they should absolutely be arrested. I've seen video from Italy where people just grab them by the hair and drag them out. If you did that here, you'd be charged with assault. But in Florida, right, DeSantis just did the bill that and I agree with this, folks. If you are being detained because somebody's in front of your vehicle, you don't know what they're going to do to you in your vehicle. And if they break your window or open your door, you legitimately, I think you're fearing for your safety. And I think you have every right to plow through them. No question. Yep. And I think you should be exempt from, you are fleeing. You're being detained, your life is in danger, and you have the right, it's okay, right? And that's called self-defense. If you feel that you are in imminent danger in bodily harm, you can defend yourself with lethal force if necessary. Go ahead and plow through. And I watch these Karens who are holding the hood, and they think they're going to stop a 3,000-pound vehicle. That's just, Karen, you're not Superwoman, Wonder Woman here, or Supergirl. It's just so stupid to watch this go on.
They should stay home and take care of their kids and grandkids and mind their own business.
That's a whole
Most
nother.
of these Karens are suburban housewives, college-educated nuts, suburban housewives that do not allow minorities in their town. They won't allow welfare. They won't allow black. But they're the ones out protesting for the illegals. Then they'll say, "Don't bring them to my town."
All right.
NIMBY,
Well, Tom,
that's what they're
all right.
doing.
All right. Thank you for the call, Tom. I wouldn't get into the personal things about who they are, whatever. I would stick to the stupidity of the protest, the fact that they commit crimes during the protest, the fact that they're putting their bodies up against a 3,000-pound vehicle. They're not going to be that stupidity will stick to that where they should be. I mean, let's not get into that personal aspect of it. But the point is, this is crazy stuff that they're doing. And yes, Trump, any president, they have rules they got to follow too. They can't, they wait, right, for the request from governors to say, I need help. I mean, the governor can activate the National Guard. That's one of the things the governor has, one of the tools in the toolbox. But the president can federalize the National Guard, right? And that goes back to Brown and the school. And that's what Trump had to do in a couple of these instances. And he was waiting. If we go back to January 6th, right? That's the big thing. He offered Bowser and Nancy Pelosi 20,000, right, National Guard and service people that would have come in to help control things. And they didn't like the optics of them taking the help. Stupidity, folks. But back to this immigration policy tightrope here in Massachusetts, because Governor Healy is facing pressure over $1 billion migrant shelter program amid a lot of concerns about the costs and crime, balancing, as the media would like to put it, compassion with fiscal restraint. Just, if you put an illegal alien in a detention center, that's not unpassionate. You don't have to put them in a $400 a night hotel to be passionate, folks. Remember, they committed a criminal act by illegally entering the country. Normally, they should be detained and deported because they got caught. Biden administration changed all that, as we've talked about. So Haley's moves, right? She's trying to shorten shelter stays. She's ending the hotel use, but defends right to shelter law. Now, what they've been using, and the Democratic Party of Massachusetts, is we have the right to shelter. Now, the original intention of that legislation and policy here, folks, was that if you are a citizen of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and through a series of whatever circumstances you may be in, you lose your home, you lose your apartment, you're homeless, that we need to shelter you. And I'm good with that. That's fine. I've said a million times on my shows, if you're going to be, say, ill and become disabled, in the Commonwealth is the place to do it. I've seen firsthand people who have, at some point in their life, through a disability, an accident, illness, no longer can work at the level they worked or be able to take care of themselves. Man, Massachusetts, we swoop in and you get everything from mass health and the Medicare, if that's what you need, to housing, and whether that's city and town housing or Section 8, public housing, whatever, all kinds of programs to prevent homelessness and things of that nature. But unfortunately, we're hitting the end of that. Was quick, very quick, guys. So we're going to wrap up the Peter Blute Show. Peter Blute back behind the microphone next Sunday. That's the plan anyway. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. It was a pleasure to sit in for Peter Blute. Folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Joe out.
You've been listening to the Peter Blute Show on AM 830 WCRN.